also referred to Destiny's insane tweets a little earlier, which were disavowed by Anna Kasparian. Well, Destiny joins us now. Destiny, you've been quite active on social media since Charlie Kirk's death. When Erica Kirk posted Charlie's coffin, you responded, she tagged him, brackets, crying face emojis. In response to Alina Haber's tweet ordering people to fly their flags at half-mast in memory of Charlie, you posted on X, buying flags and poles just to fly them fully erect. And you then posted yesterday, ending every Conservative debate call out I'd do in 2026 with "Don't dodge, bro. That's not what Charlie would have wanted." I mean, do you think that your response to the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk has been appropriate?
Yes. I think that the only way this country moves forward into a better world is when conservatives can finally realize that they need to turn the temperature down on their side. We are 10 years into whatever this Trump madness is, and there is not a single mainstream conservative that will call for a lowering of the temperature on their side. I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term.
Well, congratulations, Stephen Banel II. You are top in line of being the world's biggest piece of crap. Even your old protege, Ian Chikinski, otherwise known as Vaush, his sobriquet, he's looking much better than you nowadays. Just based on your own stupidity and your own stupid rhetoric. Destiny. What a dumb sobriquet. That's pretty well akin to a stripper name, and that's actually an insult to strippers, quite frankly. The fact that you would get on here and you would have the gall to say, well, if Donald Trump didn't run for a second term or didn't win a second term, this tragedy never would have happened. The conservatives or the right wing, they need to turn down the temperature. Yeah, like violence doesn't exist on the fringe left. Your category, you're the one that's encouraging this crap. You are the one that is, as a matter of fact, Stephen Banel II has probably brought the worst people to the mainstream. And this is why I cannot stand Breadtubers. They're so freaking useless. All they do is they get on their live streams, they basically collect their money, whether it's through Twitch or whatever platform they're going to use, Discord. I'm not really familiar with that world, to be honest with you. But they get on there, they collect their money while they're basically just going on with their socialist garbage or their libertarian socialism garbage. Or in this case, I think Destiny, he's just like a fringe left liberal. And they pretend that, well, we must go and fight the system while we're using this live stream program, which is actually a product of capitalism, but we must defend the proletariat. Oh, they are just such hypocrites. There's nothing practical to Breadtubers. You never see them run for office. They may support a candidate, while streaming online, but do they really put themselves out there to actually support a candidate? They may interview a person that is in relation to politics, maybe a congressperson, or if they're lucky, they might get a senator. But all they do is they just pretend that they have this omnipotent knowledge. They are the oracle of political knowledge, that they're just that up to that pinnacle, that they're all wise and all knowing. Meanwhile, they don't do anything practical whatsoever. So Destiny here, otherwise known as Stephen Banel II, his real name, the biggest cuck you'll ever come across, ever. He had an open relationship with his wife, and for what I understand, he does have a son who doesn't want anything to do with him. I wonder why. But he gets on here, and this guy is, I think he's in his 30s. I could be wrong about that. But he's still acting like he's 16 years old, and he's trolling a widow over the loss of her husband who was politically assassinated. And he has the nerve to say, we must turn down the temperature just on the one side, the right-wing side, apparently. I wonder what he defines as right wing. He's just a stupid fringe leftist that doesn't know what he's talking about. And yet he pretends that he's the smartest person in the room. What a frickin' maggot.
Every time he's in office, this happens. People joked about when Biden came in, it was so boring, nothing was going on. 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in American history have happened under Donald Trump. All of the recent political violence that's happened in this country over the past 20 years, the majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it, everybody gets mad because they keep asking Grok about it, has been conservative.
Who shot Charlie Kirk?
A guy from Utah who was raised in a Christian family, who was a 22-year-old
white
dude.
Described.
He wasn't
Destiny.
trans. He didn't have a trans girlfriend. He didn't have any trans influences. He didn't have any trans bullets. Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys were wrong on all of that.
To be clear, the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, has made it clear that their investigation has now established that he had been radicalized by a leftist ideology, which drove him to do this. That's just
I'm sorry. Excuse me. When?
Yesterday, he said that.
No. When was he radicalized? In the 6 months that he did remote college?
I don't know when he was radicalized, but I do know.
What you just said
I do
is not
know
true.
the very reasonable-sounding governor of Utah has made it clear that the
he hasn't made it
you may
clear.
not want
He
to
said
hear
this is
this.
an ongoing investigation.
You may not want to hear it,
Piers.
Destiny. But the reality is, the investigators, according to the governor of Utah, have established that he was radicalized to a leftist ideology that drove him to murder Charlie Kirk. Now, let me just ask you.
That's just not true.
Let me just ask you.
There's no way to deal with it.
Okay,
You're living in a
accusing the
delusional
governor of lying.
fantasy. Yeah.
That's your prerogative. But
Sure.
if it turns out to have been somebody with a leftist ideology who wanted to shut up Charlie Kirk, would you condemn that?
I won't condemn anything until the president of the United States can go on air and say, all of us need to calm down.
So you won't condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk until Donald Trump says something.
I'm a YouTuber. Leftists and Democrats have been condemning and turning down the temperature, condemning violence, turning down the temperature for a decade. Donald Trump can't go on TV and say, all of us need to calm down.
Right.
Can you tell me why he cannot?
Why would you
his
expect
side
anybody,
to calm down?
Destiny?
You can't answer that. Can you answer that question? Why can't
Can
Trump
you
go
answer
on TV
this
and say,
question?
all of us should be less violent?
Why do you
can't
think
Trump say that?
Why do you
Why
think
is your behavior contingent on Donald Trump?
I'm insane right now.
Why do you
is
think?
your
Let me
behavior
ask you a
contingent
question.
on Donald Trump?
Let me
Why
ask
is
a
that?
question.
Because he's the president of the United States of America and the leader of the opposing political party.
Destiny. Let me
You
just.
have a huge audience of young men who
I'm a
listen to
YouTuber
everything you have to
who
say.
has more
So
young
when
men
you,
following
it
him.
doesn't matter.
Who
You
has
have a
more young men?
huge
It doesn't
audience,
matter.
and because
This
of
is
the fact that
world
you have a
I'm
huge
living in,
audience,
and
you
your
have
brain
a
has been
responsibility
broken by
to
online
not
rhetoric.
turn. No,
And
it
your
hasn't.
brain
It hasn't
has
been
been
broken.
destroyed
I actually care
because
about the
people
country
bullied you
and
on
want to bring
Twitter.
people together.
If
You do
then
the
you should tell
opposite.
Donald
You
Trump to
represent
tell
the
people
worst
to
of us,
be
Destiny.
less
You're
violent.
embarrassing.
You should tell
You're
Donald.
embarrassing.
All right, let me ask Destiny a question.
Watch how easy this
No,
is.
hang on.
If
Don't
Donald
all
Trump
shout
would've
at
come out
once,
and say-
please.
If Donald Trump would have come out
Destiny,
and say, "Hey, we should all be less violent,"
Destiny,
I have no problem saying.
I have one
absolutely.
question for you,
Why
Destiny.
can't conservatives do that? Why can't conservatives do that?
Destiny, I have a question for you. Why do you think, in your campaign for everyone to dial down the temperature, why do you think that mocking the grieving widow of Charlie Kirk, when she posts an image of her at the coffin side, why do you think that constitutes turning down the temperature?
You can't turn down the temperature on your own. The president of the United
You
States
inflame
is not
the temperature.
able
You're
to
mocking
no,
his
it's
widow.
already inflamed.
You're
What are you
mocking his
talking
widow.
about? We've had multiple political assassinations over the past year. What do you mean it's turning up the temperature?
Why did you
to
mock his
fight
widow?
Online because
Why did you mock his widow?
Because she's being used as a political weapon right now
Wow.
for conservatives to continue their fight. What do you mean, wow? She's literally doing
Her husband just got
ads
murdered.
on email. Yeah, and she's using it to drive up recruitment for
And
a
you
political
can't even
movement.
condemn the murder.
Oh, Stephen Bennell II, you have totally solved this. You have cracked this right-wing conspiracy. You have now brought it out to the masses that everybody on Piers Morgan Uncensored can see and they can learn about. Yes, it was all Erica Kirk's idea. She plotted this plan where her husband was going to be in Orem, Utah. He was going to present to 3,000 attendees. Meanwhile, she was lurking in the shadows. She was talking to the would-be assassin and said, "You must execute my husband. And that way, when he is executed, then we will garner more Republicans for the Republican Party of the United States." How obtuse can you be, man? That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Anna Kasparian, she is spot on in asking you this. Why is your behavior contingent on the President of the United States' response? How is it that you cannot take responsibility for your own words and your own actions? I think you have somewhere close to, was it 900,000 subscribers on YouTube, and meanwhile you got, your Twitch stream or whatever the hell's left of it, and you cannot say that, I do bear some responsibility. Stephen, do you believe that you have no means of helping to turn down the temperature? Is it just solely the right wing that has to turn down the temperature? No, it's the whole entire political spectrum that needs to turn down the temperature. Especially your side, Stephen, the fringe woke left. I know you tend to be more of a liberal, but you're still within that category. You're still a fringe leftist. You have called out your side before, and I'll give you credit for that. However, you're saying some of the most stupidest and inane things I've ever heard. Completely stupid. Stephen, you can help to turn down the temperature, but I know you're not going to help because, like you said, I'm just a YouTuber, I'm just a streamer. So basically, you just admit that you're completely useless. With that being said, I think we should start making t-shirts that say, "Make Stephen Bennell II a janitor again." He needs to clean up his own messes.
You won't condemn it.
Can't even tell his side.
You're
to
so
turn the
deranged
down.
about Trump that you cannot condemn the
unhinged.
murder
joke,
because you're waiting for
and you
Donald
guys sit here
Trump
and
to
make
say
money
something.
off of it. It's
All right, let me bring in
crazy
Jack.
to me that Republicans can't do it.
Let me bring in Jack Posobiec. I gotta say,
there's still no answer to that question, Piers. You can't say
which question?
Why can't Donald Trump simply go on TV and say we all need to turn it down,
Fine.
like Biden could, like Obama could,
Fine.
like the Clintons could, like Kamala could?
Fine.
Why not?
Why can't you condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk?
It's unbelievable. I'm not the president of the
Why
United States.
can't you condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Unbelievable to me.
Why can't you condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Because it wasn't my side that caused it. It should
Yes,
be the
it
one that
was.
is driving up
It
the
actually
rhetoric.
was your side that caused it. It
This
was
an
your
18
side.
This guy was raised in a white
He
Christian
was a
household
radicalized
in a Christian
leftist
state.
ideology.
He wasn't radicalized by leftism at all. You have no proof of that whatsoever.
That's what
Just
the
like
investigators
the one that killed
are
Melissa
saying.
Was a conservative, just like the people that firebombed Shapiro's house was a conservative, just like all the J6ers were conservatives, just like the Proud Boys were conservatives. Every single one of these people. Oh, it's Jack Posobiec, what, the author of Unhuman, another person that Charlie's put a good one, dude.
Well, I'll give you one last chance, Destiny, to condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk.
Yes, you are acting like an unhuman.
Why can't I hear Donald Trump condemn violence in this
all
country?
right, you won't condemn it. Okay, we've all heard.
That's insane.
We've all heard you repeatedly refuse to condemn it.
We've heard Donald Trump refuse to condemn it
Jack
too. But for
Posobiec.
some reason, the leftists on YouTube are a bigger deal. Unbelievable.
Yeah. What's incredible is you don't have the basic humanity to condemn it. You'd rather taunt his widow. I find that sickening. Jack Posobiec.
I find it sickening that when people are getting killed in the country, the president of the United States on Fox and Friends, when they're begging him, what do you say to your followers that want revenge? He says, I don't know, all the elections are rigged. It's the radical Democrats. That's insane to me. And then the fixation is, well, who on Twitter and YouTube isn't condemning the violence?
All right, Jack Posobiec.
You have a great example here of the type of cancer I'm talking about, where when you present direct information, they refuse, they obfuscate, they refuse, they say it's not true, they lie. You could see from the bullet casings, you could see from postings, you could see from everything out there that it's very clear what happened here. This is the same people who supported President Trump almost getting assassinated twice last year, Cory Capatore being assassinated
by
last
conservatives
year in a situation. Again, see, just lies. That's all they do. They talk over. They don't even let you give a chance to speak. And something needs to be done, Piers. Something absolutely needs to be done. This ideology should be shamed, humiliated, driven from the public discourse. I mean, you've got people who have completely dissociated with humanity because all they care about are clicks and YouTube streams and likes. Go to the casket. Go to the gravesite. Go talk to the widow. You know, I don't even know how to discuss this with someone who's completely lost all touch with reality.
Yeah, I mean, Anna.
What's Jack's answer to why can't the president say we should all be less violent?
Right. Because you can't even condemn the cold-blooded
Because
execution of Charlie
Donald Trump
Kirk.
turns on Destiny
I don't think you're in the
YouTube,
position
and he
to
says,
demand
"I wonder what
anything from
Destiny's saying
anybody.
on YouTube. That's how I'm going to take my
You're
my
not in any
pointers, but
position
really?
to condemn anybody for anything. You won't
Absolutely
condemn a
am, because
cold-blooded
he's the president
murder.
of the United States. He's the president of the United States. No one here can answer that question.
Basic
Why Donald
humanity
Trump-
says
why
the murder
Donald Trump,
was
the president,
horrific.
Can't say
Why can't
all
you
of us
say
need
it?
to be less violent.
Why can't you
Democrats
say
have been
it,
saying
Destiny?
for over a decade.
To say the murder was horrific and
Why
unacceptable.
can't Donald Trump say it?
You can't do
why
it,
does
can
no one
you?
hear of any words for Donald Trump?
All right, Anna
What do you have for
Kasparin.
Donald Trump? Nothing exactly.
Anna Kasparin, to me, this is what I'm talking about, that I think there is an element of the left, the hard woke left, that have completely lost their minds. If you are not able to just outright simply condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk, and if you cannot stop yourself from mocking his grieving widow, you are sick, as I've just seen from Destiny. It's a
sick thing is weaponizing a widow's grief to try to do recruitment for your political party. That's probably one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. She's showing up in emails for recruitment drives for TPUSA.
Destiny? What did you think the assassination of a political figure would do? What did you think the outcome was going to be? What did you think the outcome was? And by the way,
are you asking
really,
me for the pragmatic political outcome?
behavior?
Or are you asking
Hold
me
on.
for?
Hey, how about take it easy on the
rhetorical.
Adderall? Take it easy on the Adderall, and let me answer the question that Pierce asked me.
You must have been really bullied today, I
my
guess.
Behavior,
Let Anna speak, please.
My behavior is not reliant on how anyone else behaves. Every morning I wake up and I make decisions about how I choose to react or respond to things. I don't wake up in the morning, check what Donald Trump has to say, and then base my own personal behavior on his behavior. I agree with you in that it would be very helpful to have the leader of this country want to turn the temperature down. And he hasn't done that. I agree with you on that. But that doesn't change the way I choose to respond to what's going on. The idea of mocking a woman who is now a widow with 2 young children who witnessed her husband get shot in the neck and bleed out to death, I just don't understand it. That's it. I don't understand it. I don't understand you, Destiny. You have so much hatred in your heart, and at the same time, you
it's such a simple thing. If you're going to
hateful.
weaponize somebody's grief against the other party, well, then of course people have a right to fight back against it. I think that she has every right to grieve in whatever way she wants, but when that grief is going to be weaponized to do recruitment, political recruitment, and further radicalization of the other side, then of course you not only have the ability to mock it, I think you have the obligation to mock it. It's insane.
Let me understand. Let me understand your argument. So since others are using her grief to politically recruit, you think that it's okay to mock her specifically?
Since others are using her grief, she's the one who gave a 17-minute speech on TV where she talked about good versus evil. She's the one showing up in TPUSA ads to 1 or 2 days after.
If someone assassinated my husband, I would not be able to have the level of composure she had during that speech. I would be out for blood. I understand why she's angry and why she said the things that she said. Okay, you need to understand what being a human is, what it's like to actually lose someone that you love, that you chose to spend your life with, that you chose to raise children with, a person who was violently and viciously assassinated like that. This is why I've moved away
and when
from
something
identifying as a
you got bullied online. It's so funny. It's so funny
are
that you just
so
said that you
embarrassing on
don't
the
think about
left.
how other people act to define your behavior. Your entire political ideology now is somehow defined by the people that were mean to you on Twitter.
Anna Kasparian, that was a beautiful takedown. I am so proud of you for handing this cuck his ass on a silver platter. He doesn't even deserve a silver platter. He just put it on like a piece of drywall covered in horse manure. He doesn't deserve anything other than to just be told straight out. That was a beautiful takedown. See, Anna can at least try to relate. She has empathy, and I know that empathy was not a preferable word that Charlie Kirk liked. He preferred the word compassion over empathy, but we're going to go with empathy here. Anna can at least take into consideration that if that was her husband that got blown in the neck and he just happened to bleed out to death right in front of her children, and I know Anna doesn't have any children, but nonetheless, having your husband killed right in front of you, right in front of your family, That's going to work you into a frenzy. But Stephen Bennell II, he believes that, oh, this is just some right-wing conspiracy. They were doing this to garner more votes for the Republican Party, more support for the Republican Party. That is the most obtuse and stupid commentary I've ever heard. It's just so stupid. And again, he does not want to condemn the assassination. It's no different than what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania when Donald Trump almost got assassinated. There was a firefighter that was killed in the audience, and then Stephen Bennell II happened to blame the firefighter for being at the Trump rally, and that was his own fault. Like, this is the mentality of this midget. All he can do is just do these rapid-fire response. He's all full of sound and theory. He's signifying nothing. He's going like, what about Donald Trump? Democratic, pass, and Republicans. I mean, he just goes on with like this gibberish, and he's just so on rapid fire. Yeah, you really need to lay off the Adderall, son. Anna, well done. Well done, Anna. I thought that was beautiful. Because he needs to learn how to be a frickin' human being. And all he can do is just think political strategy, and it's just so obtuse.
If somebody cares about somebody who's grieving,
I understood
then you tell that
what
person,
the flaws
you
on
tell
the
that
left
person,
happen
hey,
to be. The
maybe you should
weakness in their
step back
arguments.
for a couple of weeks.
No, it's
Maybe
not
you should
about
take
the
some
way
time
I
to
get
grieve.
treated.
You don't
I
say,
get treated
hey, let's
like
throw a
crap from
camera in
both
front
sides
of
of
you
the
and have
political
you do
aisle.
mass recruitment for our political party while everyone over here is calling for civil war. It's unhinged. When you've got people like Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire, the
we're
president
talking
of the
to a
United States
guy
calling
who
for
said
civil
he'd be
war.
okay with his own parents getting killed if they went to that Trump rally where that assassination attempt
and we're talking
happened.
to a
There's
woman
no
who went
reasoning
on and
with
did
you,
the whole
Destiny.
conservative media
There's
outlet with
there's
Tucker
no
Carlson
reasoning
and
with
Glenn
you.
Beck and had
Okay.
nothing bad to say whatsoever. I know where your bread is buttered. I know where
And
you're
it was
making your money
great.
from.
I had
Okay, that's
awesome
great.
conversations.
I
I don't regret it at all.
That's great.
I also had a
And keep up with the
conversation with
personal
Jack
attacks 'cause you're
Posobiec
so
on her take. It was
brain-broken.
awesome.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Jack,
what
the guy over there that gets
democracy is
paid
about.
by
Having
Russia
an
that lies
exchange of
about everything that
ideas.
comes out of his
And the irony of Charlie Kirk is that he led the way in going in to debate with people who hated him, and he would try and have respectful
Charlie
dialogue.
Kirk beat up on college students.
Unlike
That's all
you,
he did.
Destiny.
Let's be
Let me
real.
bring
Unlike
Andrew
me,
Wilson
I'm
in.
here
So do you.
arguing. Yeah.
Let me bring in Andrew Wilson.
So do you. You beat up on college students. You go on a college tour.
Charlie
You're going on a
Kirk is
college
trying to
tour
hold
right
higher
now
level
to
debates,
beat
and
up
you guys
on
killed
college students. What are you talking about, Destiny? That's what you're doing right this second, is going on a college tour to go beat up on college students. By the way, can I just ask you a question?
I don't
yes
exclusively beat up on college.
Can you actually answer?
Can
you actually answer? Hang on, calm down. I just got one question.
Students?
I got one question for you, and I want you to actually answer it. Are you glad Charlie Kirk is dead?
This is an excellent, boxed-in question to ask Stephen Bennell II. Well, Stephen Bennell II, Andrew Wilson has asked you a very direct question, and that question is as follows, and I'll repeat it again. Are you glad that Charlie Kirk is dead? I think deep down, you little maggot, you are glad that Charlie Kirk is dead. It's no different from what you felt for that firefighter that was killed in Butler, Pennsylvania by that stray bullet, a bullet that was meant for President Donald J. Trump, and all you could do was just say that, well, he deserved to die based on association. So in that case, anyone that attends a Donald J. Trump rally, a Republican rally, conservative rally, CPAC, whatever, they deserve to die because they happen to be in attendance. So we shouldn't really be exploring any diversity of thought now, should we? Yeah, that's very much the core belief of French woke leftists like you. It's no different from what Vaush thinks, where he would like to see all conservatives wiped off the face of the earth. It's no different from your other protege, Jake's nephew, who basically thinks the same way. Both of them support terrorist ideologies. Both of them are all about political violence, yet they claim that they're about being peaceful. It's absolute nonsense, and you're all hypocrites. Every single one of you are just hypocrites. Because if you actually did condemn political violence, all of you would be out saying, this should never have happened. Whoever killed Charlie Kirk deserves to be punished through the full extent of the law of the country. That person should be condemned completely. But you cannot do that because what you French woke leftists, it doesn't matter if it's you, Stephen Bennell II, It doesn't matter if it's Cenk Uygur's nephew or your other protege, Vaush. You both know that if you were to go out and fully condemn this act, you essentially lose your bread and butter. And your bread and butter is your fringe left audience. It's so funny that all of you go on about, oh, capitalism is evil, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, you're using tools of capitalism to profit off of your stupid, inane rhetoric. And you try to act all virtuous about it, where there's no efficacy that you offer. You go on about, well, we should do X, Y, Z, but you don't tell about how you can accomplish these goals and these ideas. You're all absolutely useless. All Breadtubers are useless. And I don't think much different in terms of other pundits either, unless they're able to provide some form of efficacy to their ideas. But in this case, let's just face it, Stephen Bennell II, you do not want to go out and condemn these people because you know deep down that they are your bread and butter. You essentially don't want to go back to being a janitor again. I think that's what the case is. But to think that you start this whole live stream movement, and now we got these false pundits coming out of nowhere pretending that they know what they're talking about, influencing very impressionable young minds into thinking that you actually have a solution, but what you really are offering is you're just offering more violence and more division. I respect the fact that you're willing to debate your ideas, but don't be a hypocrite in saying that, oh, Charlie Kirk just debated college students. Charlie Kirk debated everybody. He debated everybody in terms of people in the U.S. Congress, people in the U.S. Senate, state senators, professors, teachers. He debated everybody. And you like to say, oh, well, all those videos were highly edited. I'm sure there were some edits that had to happen for the sake of context. But don't pretend that you don't do the same thing, Stephen. You do the exact same thing. But you're trying to say that you're more virtuous? I would absolutely love to give these fringe woke leftists their own planet. We'll call it the planet woke, and these inhabitants can be Stephen Bennell II, Cenk Uygur's nephew, Vaush, Kyle Kulinski, Sam Cedar, Emma Vigeland. We'll even throw in that sanctimonious David Pakman just for fun. Okay, so we have these inhabitants of the planet woke. These are the faux pundits. And they have all their followers from social media, whether it be YouTube, Blue Sky, Twitch, Discord, Facebook, whatever. They have all their social media followers on this planet woke. It would be so interesting to see how long this planet would last. How long it would take for everything just to implode and explode at the same time. Because I don't think that you would see like any form of cohesion, any form of cooperation. I think what you would see is just a bunch of disarray. It would be a bunch of people that are so polarized in their ideologies that they think that they are absolute, they are right. And they cannot have any form of diversity of thought and opinion. And you would see like this form of tribalism just come in emergence again, because even Vaush himself has said that the left has always been traditionally disagreeable. So with that being said, I think that you would just see a total destruction of Planet Woke. Planet Woke would just be done within a week. It would be the most entertaining yet somewhat disturbing social experiment to ever be conducted. It would just be the best of reality TV, and I happen to resent reality TV. But it would just be so fascinating to see how long it would take for them to crumble and just self-destruct. It would be inevitable.
No, I don't think anybody in this country should be dying to political violence. It's insane. The past 5 years in this country has been crazy. But the reality is, until conservatives
so then why did you say to your co-host that Trump deserved the bullet? Why did you tell him that?
Until conservatives have to say, hey, we all need to be less violent, there's no purpose in Democrats doing it, because every time Democrats disavow, you further entrench your guys' delusional beliefs that all the violence is coming on the left. Donald Trump can go on TV. He can say, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. They can go on Parler and say, we heard you. They can go to the Capitol and break in and try to insurrect. They can get convicted in front of a jury, and then Donald Trump can pardon them, and we can come out and go, hey, guys, why aren't Democrats disavowing violence? And pretend that the problem is coming from the left. Democrats do a disservice to this country by disavowing violence constantly when the president of the United States
Let me respond
won't go on
quickly.
TV and say all of us need to be less violent.
Destiny.
How easy
So
could that
the
be?
thing is, why did you say to your co-host
Yeah, keep
that
focusing on me.
the
Keep
bullet
focusing on me.
that the bullet
I'm not here to
that
play-
the bullet was for Trump? Why did you say to your co-host that the best place for the bullet was Trump? Why did you say that?
Why did Donald Trump call
It's a
Kamala fascist?
whataboutism.
That's what's causing people to
Whataboutism.
kill-
I'm
that's what
asking
you're
you a
doing right
question.
Now. Whataboutism. The
I can't be a
conversation is about
whataboutism
what I
if
said.
it's my
The
question,
conversation is,
Destiny.
Why won't Donald Trump disavow
Answer
violence in the United
the
States?
question.
All right,
Why
why
didn't
don't
he
we-
told his co-host when asked point blank if he wanted the bullet to kill Trump that the worst thing that could have happened was the bullet missing? He said this to Pisco. I watched it. Okay, this guy's an obfuscation machine. And if you know what else, Destiny, why should we believe you? I think you are glad Kirk is dead. And all of your tweets seem to prove that. And you would have been happy if Trump was assassinated. You've made that very clear. So why not just be truthful for once in your and say the truth, that you don't care that Kirk is dead, and you're actually probably glad he is. Isn't that really what's true?
I don't want anybody in this country to die to political violence. I don't think in the United States of America that should be happening. I don't know why it's so hard for the president to say the same. I think it'd be the easiest thing in the world as a president. Biden did it for 4 years. That's why everything was way cooler when he was here, like in terms of temperature. The Clintons have no problem saying it. Barack Obama has no problem saying it. Kamala Harris has come out and said it.
I think he's on something other than Adderall. I think he's on either methamphetamine or cocaine, because those symptoms are it's just like that hyper jittery responses, and then that's all you got from him. He's just like going like rapid fire. He's like, what about Donald Trump and Donald Trump and then the Democrat and the temperature, like he's just talking so freaking fast. It's like his brain is just on rapid fire and his mouth cannot catch up with his brain. And he's definitely on something. Like, this is not normal behavior. I'm pretty sure this guy is probably on live streams probably maybe 30 hours at a time, and maybe this is his way of keeping himself stimulated. He probably does methamphetamine, cocaine, those type of things, because I just see the symptoms right there. This is what you call an ice user. This is just me taking an educated guess, but I've seen these symptoms before. And Destiny has the behavior of a methamphetamine user.
Every Democratic lawmaker and leader has basically come out and said it. But for some reason on the Republican side, it's just civil war, civil war, civil war. And the Republican president of the United States, who has presided over more violence politically in this country, more large protests than any president in all of U.S. history, for some reason can't bring himself to say, all of us need to calm down. And
So
until
did
that
Trump
happens,
deserve
there's no
the
reason for
bullet?
anyone allowed to say it.
Did Trump deserve the bullet?
This is all you care about are the political hit jobs.
Just
It's
answer
actually
the
insane
question,
to me.
bro.
It's
Did
so
Trump
insane
deserve
to
the
me.
bullet?
Did Donald Trump
he deserve
disavow
the
violence
bullet?
on his side ever? Did Donald Trump
Answer
disavow
the
violence on his
question.
side
Did
ever?
Trump deserve the bullet?
You can't answer the question. We're here to play.
No, bro, it's
find
my turn
tweets
to
and
ask the
YouTube
question.
video
It's your
clips.
turn to answer.
It's YouTube
Did
video
Trump deserve
clips,
the
and it's-
bullet?
Did Trump disavow violence in this country ever?
Did he deserve the bullet? Yes, he's
Answer my
disavowed
question, I'll
violence.
answer yours.
But again, I just did. Now your turn. Now your
Not just on
turn.
the radical
It's your
left.
turn.
Did Donald Trump?
Did
then
Trump
no,
deserve the
I
bullet?
never said that. No, I never said that. No.
Okay, except you did to your co-host.
No,
You
I
said,
didn't. Oh, wait. When
now
did
your
Donald Trump
exact
disavow?
words-
Wait. When did
You-
Donald Trump
your
disavow all
exact
violence in
words
this
to your
country?
co-host, you lying sack. If he
I'm
wanted
the lying
to kill
sack.
the worst thing
Wait,
that could have happened
Donald Trump
was the
disavowed
bullet
all
missing.
political violence. And
That's what you said,
and this is,
bro.
Yeah. And this is where when
You're the
you're
biggest
putting
lying
YouTubers and tweeters on the same level as the president of the United States. This is why conservatives are absolutely brain broken when it comes to violence in this country. And that's why it'll continue.
But
There'll be
Destiny-
more deaths.
but Destiny-
Maybe it'll be me at the next time. Who
Destiny-
knows? There'll be
Well,
more
I do
people
Destiny-
agree you
die,
want it to
and
continue.
you guys are all
Destiny-
going to turn around and be like, I can't believe it. What's going
Destiny-
on? What's happening here?
Okay,
Yeah.
Destiny, if you care so much about political violence in America, why don't you lead the way yourself without
can't,
mentioning
because
anybody
one
else?
side-
Why don't
because
you?
one side-
Why don't you, Destiny, right now, just outright condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Because we've been doing that for a decade. One side can't turn down the temperature.
You can't do
The other
it.
side can't turn down the temperature. If Donald Trump can't, then the left shouldn't until he does.
Got it.
Republicans
Okay, you don't want to do
need
it.
accountability for their actions. They need some responsibility for the insanity.
He had it coming,
even though you've taken on yourself. Let me bring in Jack Posobiec.
We absolutely,
All right,
Democrats will take
that's enough,
accountability when
Destiny.
it's their
I'll bring
fault.
in Jack Posobiec.
Yeah,
Jack.
okay. Nice. Both sides it.
Jack.
Yeah.
What is your response to this?
I mean, Piers, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, this type of ideology where you've got someone who's willing to mock Erica, who's been standing strong for her family, for her children, who's just, she will never be able to grow old with Charlie. She will never be able to be with them again, have more children, to have grandchildren, to have those memories, to raise them. It's all gone. Every single moment of that future that they had was gone because someone fired a bullet at Charlie Kirk that said, "Hey, fascist, catch." And now you have people celebrating it. And when you ask people
That's
about
not even
it,
the
they
bullet
say,
that was fired.
"Oh,
How are you lying
oh,
about this?
Shut
even?
up, Destiny.
Holy
Shut up.
shit! You're so
Shut
shameless,
up.
dude. Oh my god! You're not even inside the right bullet. You're such a disgusting
Piers.
piece of
Run!
shit. Holy
Pedantic. What a pedantic point.
Are we-
what a
are we
It's not
even gonna do
pedantic.
this?
The guy
It's
national
total
lawyer.
pedantry.
pedantry. It's total
Ethics based.
pedantry.
This
Total
guy
even
would
gonna
probably.
do
I would like to let
Jesus.
Jack. I would like to let Jack finish his point, please.
Yeah,
and
it's just
and
rant
they'll
here,
claim
yeah.
there's no leftist connection. They'll claim there's no there and then go so far as to lie and say there's some kind of Christian conservative connection when you could see the writing on the bullet casings. And so you know, these are very common symbols associated, whatever. The point is, right, it should be very, very clear. Are we connected with our humanity or are we not? And some people are willing to do that. Anna's been willing to do that. We've done shows together. They've been fine. They've been good. We've jousted. We've done the back and forth. Destin and I in the past have had shows together where before he kind of took this turn, and you think there are people who can just be willing to stand up for humanity.
Because you can't give an inch to political opponents that won't recognize or acknowledge anything they've done is wrong. It's all it's done is gotten us here. This is where we're at because of that exact mindset. Will any of the conservatives here acknowledge the conservative that murdered Melissa Hortman and her husband and shot the other senator in Minnesota?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, just
That it was
about
a
all
conservative
political
shooter?
violence.
That it was a
Yeah.
conservative shooter?
I don't know the details on that particular case. If I
course,
did,
yeah,
and
of
it
course
turned
they
out
don't,
that it
yeah.
was the case, of course, I would say that such violence should be disavowed. Thing is, you can't hold your entire moral standard based on what you think Trump is doing or not doing. What does that have to do with you, Destiny? It has nothing to do with you. You can easily
has
just
to do
say,
with is that
you
when
can lead by
conservatives
example and say,
refuse
let's
to
all tone
acknowledge-
down the
You can't
violence.
lead by
That's
example.
what
I'm
you
not
want,
the president
right?
of the United States. That's what Democrats have been doing.
Wait,
for
you
the
can't
last
lead by
decade.
example because you're not the president? That's
No,
the
when
stupidest
one
thing I've
side,
heard
if
today,
one
Destiny.
side wants to fight and the other side doesn't, then you're going to fight. One side can't decide not
What
to
are you
fight,
talking?
but the other
That
side
makes no
decided to.
sense. What does that have
What
to
do you
do
mean
with
it
you?
makes no
You
sense?
can-
If
you
some
can
guy comes up to
easily-
you to
you
fight,
can easily
and the
just
other
say it
side
now,
says, I
Destiny.
don't want to, you don't really have the choice there.
Lead
That's
by
how fighting
example,
works.
then. Lead by
You
example.
can't lead by
and show
example.
us.
That's called dying.
You can.
Actually,
Right
I
now,
thought-
you
I
do
thought-
it right
I
now.
actually
Second
thought-
Amendment rights.
Do it right
I
now.
actually
That's the party of
thought. Let me
self-defense.
jump in.
Because you're
I-
actually happy
Let me
about
jump
it,
in
Destiny.
here.
Just be
I
honest,
actually,
you're happy
I actually
about it.
felt that Anna hit the nail on the head here, which is she did not need to wait for Donald Trump to comment on this to make her own mind up about what had happened. That is intellectual honesty, right? Yes, it may have been somebody that she totally
Anna's
disagreed
a
with
right-wing
on many
talking
issues.
head. Why- yeah,
the
no, of
simple,
course she can
humane
do
thing
this.
to do with any event, overuse of words like Hitler, Nazis, and fascists was actually empowering deranged young minds to think they were battling actual new Hitler, Nazis, and fascists. And actually, when Andrew pointed out to Cornell that he had used the phrase neo-fascist about Trump, that's when Cornell decided he couldn't take part in the debate anymore, when he was reminded of something he had said. He didn't try and deny it. He just said, I don't want to have this debate, and left.
Piers, how long have you been in the United States, like following our politics?
Over 20 years, I've lived and worked in America.
Okay, if you've lived and worked in America, I grew up as a conservative listening to Rush Limbaugh and to Glenn Beck and to Billy Cunningham and to Sean Hannity. You're going to sit here and pretend like Democrats are the ones that started the name calling? I heard them call Obama and the Clintons socialists and communists.
When did I say that?
I heard them call... I'm just saying, why are we pretending that some people...
I'm saying, why did Cornel West...
household?
Why would Cornel West walk out on a debate when we're literally talking about the importance of speech? Makes no sense to me.
If speech is important, then the president should exercise it more cautiously.
So should you.
And Republicans have been... You can't stop
You've got millions of followers, and you think it's fine to show them you're mocking a widow.
You cannot choose for your opponent not to fight you.
Fine.
If Republicans
You mocked
won't
a
turn
grieving
down
widow.
the rhetoric... Then who cares? Donald Trump shouldn't have used the rhetoric that led her to being killed. 2 days before she dies,
cares that you mocked a grieving widow?
This is all. It's just virtue signaling. You guys are excited about it. You guys love it.
How is it? How is it that you said this guy can't possibly be a leftist?
It's exciting to you. It's insane to me.
Yeah.
No.
How is it that you said this guy can't be a leftist because he grew up in a white Christian household when you grew up in a white Christian household by your own admission just now and you're a Destiny?
I'm 36 years old. This guy was 22 and he lived at home.
What does that have to do with anything?
Life.
What does that have to do with anything?
I had 20 years to separate myself from my parents' ideology. I didn't live with them still. Jesus.
So 6 months, 1 year, 20 years? Why does it matter how long it took to separate? You just got to say it was impossible, and you yourself are a leftist who grew up in a Christian conservative household, dude. You're the worst hypocrite I've ever seen.
Hold on, I'm sorry. You think that a 22-year-old has as much time to separate himself from the ideology that he grew up with as a 36-year-old?
Didn't say
it. You just made the comparison.
You
did. It's not.
Let me ask.
Look at you.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in. Let me ask Jack. Jack, you know the Kirk family well. You've been around the Kirk family, I think, since this is appalling murder has happened. When you hear Destiny saying, who cares about the fact that he openly, publicly mocked Erica Kirk, a grieving widow, within literally a day or two of her husband being murdered, how does that make you feel as a friend of the family?
It's very angry, Piers, And here's the thing is she's seeing all of it. She's going to see all of it. Her kids are going to watch this video one day. It's just that's sort of the nature of reality now. They will see all of this and they will see the reaction. And I just hope that those of us who knew Charlie, worked with Charlie, who knew Charlie beyond the, TikToks and short videos can also be there for those kids as they grow up to let them know who their dad was.
And
kids are going to grow up and watch old episodes of Piers Morgan uncensored. How performative is this? Is everybody here? Did we all get like a script before the show? What?
They watch a lot of old episodes of the JFK.
Embarrassing. You make the left look so bad, and you don't even realize it. You are seriously so embarrassing.
Okay, yeah.
God.
You can talk to your best friend.
You really
Glenn
are.
Beck about
I mean,
it
like,
later,
you
have
do you
another
feel
30-minute conversation about it, Anna.
Maybe I will. Maybe I will talk to Glenn Beck about it. Oh, is that is that naughty? Is it
how
naughty?
many conversations have you had with Nick?
You
had more conversations with Nick than anyone.
So mean. Oh no, not the meanies on Twitter.
How many more lawsuits are you going to face from women that you allegedly secretly recorded during intimate moments, Destiny? I can't believe anyone takes you seriously.
Are you really?
You're disgusting.
You're
embarrassing, and you should be shunned from public life with your disgusting treatment of all sorts of people, including young left-wing girls, women that you victimize allegedly. Yeah, that's who you are.
2 shades away from
You're embarrassing. You embarrass the left. You're the type of person who pushes people away from the left. Make sure you understand that. You're embarrassing. There's no morality with you. There's no grounding values. There's no principles. All you want is attention, 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 attention. That's all you want.
Yeah, of course.
All you want. Endless attention. Say disgusting, provocative garbage.
Another friendly conversation with another mainstream conservative commentator about how you're such a leftist, but those people on Twitter are so mean.
Having a debate or dialogue doesn't automatically mean that you agree with everything they have to say. It means you're coming together.
No, it's when you sit down and you're
exchanging ideas and
then
debating them.
They have to say.
No, I don't agree with everything they have to say. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you do.
I don't agree with everything they have to say. But I'm an adult.
When you sit down and all of your criticisms
have a mature debate or conversation.
And you have no disagreements about anything on the right, that's called
agreement.
I do have
criticisms for the left. I have tons of criticisms for the right. Tons of criticisms. I'm obviously
they don't seem to come out
pro-choice,
much
for
when you're
instance.
talking to your
I obviously have a
conservative
huge
friends. The big
problem
guns, yeah.
with the unending, unmitigated support for Israel, regardless of the genocide they're engaging in. I have all sorts of disagreements with the right. That doesn't mean I'm going to dehumanize them and cheer on the slaughter of my fellow Americans because we have disagreements on politics. You're embarrassing.
I wish anybody here had the same energy for the president of the United States, but that's good. I'm glad you guys are focused where it really counts on Twitter and
Dude,
YouTube.
you have
Which is what the
like
conservatives want you to be
TDS,
focused
like
on, you know?
you are like the prototype
TDS,
of TDS.
yeah, there it
it's
comes, yeah.
unbelievable.
The
You wake
TDS,
up every
yes.
morning and you decide
Yes,
your behavior is going to
true.
hinge on Trump.
Tell me
Well,
more about
who
the
are you as
dancing
an individual?
Israelis and Building
God, have
7
a little bit
and
of
how the
humanity.
Jews all knew about 9/11
You're a
and they all
sociopath.
want us to go to war
You're
in the
a
Middle East. Yeah, of course.
sociopath.
Let me
I
bring
never
in-
once said the
Okay.
Jews
Let me
were
bring in
behind
Jack
9/11.
again.
Not
Let me-
once. Don't make things up, you disgusting prick.
Let me
That's
bring
okay,
in
don't
Jack
worry.
again. Let me bring in Jack again. Jack, Peter Navarro earlier was...
Look, social media is a tool. And what social media has done right now is it's allowed us to get a glimpse into leftist ideology, finally. Yeah. And we get to see the insane madness that was always there. And the fact of the matter is that, here on the panel right this second, you have a guy who celebrated a multitude of these types of things, including telling his co-host that basically Trump, the worst place that the assassin could have put the bullet was anywhere other than Trump. I mean, I got the clip of him doing it. And so the thing is like what we've noted now, these people are glad. They're glad. They're happy. They love it. I go on TikTok all the time and I debate with these people. It's very clear that leftists are glad that this happened and that they're going to do everything they can to promote more of it. And we're supposed to base our behavior on what the president does or doesn't say. What, like if I had Biden derangement syndrome, I couldn't still come out and condemn political violence? Of course I could. But the thing is
I'm
that
just curious. Anybody have any words for the fact that Charlie Kirk said that Biden should have been executed?
Leftists collectively can't seem to do that, though. I don't know why they can't seem to do that.
No, that was fine when Charlie Kirk said it. Okay,
Anna,
gotcha.
Anna, I want to mention something to you, which I was going to talk to Cornel West
Charlie
about.
Kirk was a moderate. He was more moderate than a local electrician.
Yeah, nice pivot.
He was more moderate than a local electrician, and you know that. By the way,
he said he wanted to see Biden. He said he wanted to see Biden
with the
executed.
worst,
He
and
said
I've
he
seen
wanted
you do
to
it.
see
You know,
Biden executed. Okay, give me a.
That's not what he
don't care about
said.
any of this
That's
stuff.
not what he
This is a
said. He said
performance.
if you violate criminality in criminal
this is
laws,
performative
then that will
outrage.
be the case.
Biden
All right, I
wasn't
want to
found
ask
have
Anna.
There's not
violated
what's
criminal law. That was
performative.
just-
What's performative?
Oh, wait, so if I say, oh well, I think that guy was a criminal, therefore the execution is okay. Somehow that makes everything fine with no investigation, no criminal charges.
You say all the time
Give me a break.
that your political opponent should be in jail and highest extent of the law. You say it all the time. What are you talking about?
Sorry, no, that's Donald
saying
Trump.
the
He's
word
one who's
performative doesn't mean
activating
anything.
The National Guard right now.
Oh, it's just
bullshit
performative.
investigations into every
that's just
political
performative.
opponent.
All right, I want to bring Anna back in.
Performative.
I want to bring Anna back in.
Performative.
Okay, I want to bring Anna back in because the president-elect of the Oxford Union, probably the most premier debating society in the world, I've done it several times myself, George Aberonye, reportedly posted he did post several comments in a WhatsApp group appearing to celebrate the murder of Charlie Kirk. One said, Charlie Kirk got shot. Let's go. Another one was, I think, LOL. This guy is going to be the president of the Oxford Union Debating Society. And yet he is celebrating the murder of somebody he literally debated himself in the Oxford Union in May. I found that terrifying. I mean, he shouldn't still be in the job because how can you possibly be the head of a debating society when you think the way to debate with people is murder them if they don't agree with you? But again, the gleeful celebration. This is supposedly one of the brightest students in Britain. President of the new Oxford Union Debating Society.
He can't be that bright if he's not considering what a political assassination could potentially lead to. Because where does this end? And that's like one of my biggest issues with a portion of the left. Their inability to see past the current moment, right? You're celebrating it, but what's the long-term goal here? Is the long-term goal to just have to descend to an environment of endless political assassinations and violence? And if we're going to have the left go up against the right in terms of violence, in terms of bloodshed, in terms of shootings, I don't know. I would just venture to say that the right is probably going to do a better job in, taking people out than the left is. This is just a really disgusting, sick ideology, and we need to move away from it. And again, I want to emphasize, your personal behavior, the way you choose to behave and respond to things on a day-to-day basis has an impact. Okay, be the change you want to see in the world. So when you have a huge audience, and that audience of young people who look up to you, who feel inspired by you, hear you essentially minimize political violence or even make excuses for it or deflect by blaming Trump for everything, well, you're essentially indoctrinating people to support and normalize political violence. Perfect. We can't be doing that. I don't care how people behave on the right. That's not going to have an impact on how I personally choose to behave. I want to be better than that. I want to preach dialogue, okay? Debate, have these conversations. And Charlie Kirk, the last debate he and I had, Destiny would like you to believe that I agree with the right on everything. I don't agree with the right on everything. We debated about whether or not you have to have children in order to care about the future of this country. So we have a debate, and it's fine. He has a right to his opinions. I have the right to mine. If you care about democracy, the democratic process is reliant on having these types of conversations and reliant on not resorting to violence because you're unable to articulate your arguments effectively against the other side. That's what I see this assassination as. Again, it was cowardice. It was disgusting. It was cold-blooded murder, and no one should be celebrating it, and no one should be mocking the family members of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, very well said. I just want to thank all the panel for joining me. Jack, I want to say to you, I can tell by your demeanour today how profoundly impacted you've been by your friend's murder.
God. Stephen Bennell II, who the hell do you think you are? You act like you're so important that, oh yeah, you have the moral high ground. Jack's best friend, Charlie Kirk, was assassinated, and all you can do is just go, oh my God, it's like as if you're giving him any sympathy. Oh, you are just such a ghoul. This is just disgusting. And Anna is absolutely right. This political violence needs to stop. All it's going to do is just going to keep the polarization of left and right. There's not going to be any form of compromise or any form of dialogue. And this is what the political assassination ended up doing. It's now going to make people afraid to attend these events and being able to have actual conversations. And of course, if you're going to be like Stephen Bennell II, well, you should never attended those functions anyways, because you're basically asking yourself to get shot. This is this idiot's mentality. And all he can do is just scoff and act like a frickin' 16-year-old kid, and he's 36 years old? What an embarrassment. And yeah, I also heard that he happens to save pictures of ex-girlfriends, and then he uses that as a form of revenge porn, where if they happen to get out of line or something like that, then he'll actually will utilize that. That's how much of a frickin' scumbag Stephen Bennell II is. I hope people just leave your channel in droves, Stephen Bennell. You are just such a distasteful person. You are vile. You're just disgusting. And like what Anna said, you are a complete embarrassment to the left wing. She's absolutely right. I think the person that happens to deserve the most credit, I give Anna Kasparian. She made a lot of great points, and I liked when she called Stephen a disgusting prick, because that's exactly what he is. But I got to give it to Jack. Jack held his composure throughout the whole thing, and when he shouted out at Destiny, or Stephen, whatever the hell you want to call him, I thought Jack, he was doing so well in maintaining his composure, and frankly, I think I would not have been able to hold that calm composure like he did. And I'm a big fan of Andrew Wilson as well. I thought that he just knows how to antagonize Stephen. He knows how to push his buttons, and he's just that operator. He's such a really good polemicist, where he's able to just poke at those buttons, and he just knows how to set off Stephen like dynamite. Andrew just knew how to piss Stephen off, and he did such an excellent job in doing so. Well, Stephen, I think it's time that you become a janitor again. I think your YouTube channel, I hope it dries up. I hope the gravy train is over. Same thing with all your streaming channels. And frankly, you deserve to be banned. You're just a complete sack of monkey crap. And we should never hear from you ever again. Good riddance.
And I'm just very sorry to you, as his friend,
Shut up, Coomer.
that you've had to endure what must have been a hellish week. And
Actual ghouls.
I'd like to
Unreal.
send my very best to the family who I know you talked to. And I'm sorry for some of the things you've had to hear from Destiny in this debate. But thank you for coming on despite what you've been going through. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Piers. I'll convey that to them.
Thank you.
In this segment, we're going to take a look at this opinion article that was written by the American journalist Ezra Klein. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Ezra Klein, other than that he's a moderate liberal, he writes columns for the New York Times, and he also has a podcast, if I recall right. I think in order to write for the New York Times, you have to be at least at minimum a moderate liberal. They tend to have quite a substantial bias, in my opinion, with regards to their material, especially when it comes to politics in general. But anyways, I just digress slightly. But this article itself I thought was very well balanced, very well written, and it's entitled, Charlie Kirk Was Practicing Politics the Right Way. This article was written the day after Charlie Kirk's assassination on September the 11th, 2025. And it goes as follows. Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way. The foundation of a free society is the ability to participate in politics without fear of violence. To lose that is to risk losing everything. Charlie Kirk and his family just lost everything. As a country, we came a step closer to losing everything too. We've been edging closer for some time now. In 2020, a plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, was foiled by the FBI. In 2021, a mob stormed the Capitol in an effort to overturn the result of the election, and pipe bombs were found at the Democratic and Republican National Committee headquarters. In 2022, a man broke into the home of Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House at the time, intending to kidnap her. She was absent, but the intruder assaulted her 82-year-old husband, Paul, with a hammer, fracturing his skull. In 2024, President Trump was nearly assassinated. That same year, Brian Thompson, the chief executive of United Healthcare, was murdered. In 2025, Molotov cocktails were thrown into the home of Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania during Passover. Melissa Hortman, the former House Speaker of Minnesota, and her husband were murdered, and State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were severely injured by a gunman. And on Wednesday, Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was gunned down during a speech at Utah Valley University. You can dislike much of what Kirk believed, and the following statement is still true. Kirk was practicing politics in exactly the right way. He was showing up to campuses and talking with anyone who would talk to him. He was one of the era's most effective practitioners of persuasion. When the left thought its hold on the hearts and minds of college students was nearly absolute, Kirk showed up again and again to break it. Slowly, then all at once, he did. College-age voters shifted sharply right in the 2024 election. That was not all Kirk's doing, but he was central in laying the groundwork for it. I did not know Kirk, and I am not the right person to eulogize him, but I envied what he built. A taste for disagreement is a virtue in a democracy. Liberalism could use more of his moxie and fearlessness. In the inaugural episode of his podcast, Governor Gavin Newsom of California hosted Kirk, admitting that his son was a huge fan. What a testament to Kirk's project. On social media, I've seen mostly decent reactions to Kirk's murder. There is grief and shock from both the left and the right, but I've seen two forms of reaction that are misguided, however comprehensible the rage or horror that provoked them. One is more on the left to wrap Kirk's death around his views. After all, he defended the Second Amendment, even admitting it meant accepting innocent deaths. Another is on the right to turn his murder into a justification for an all-out war, a Reichstag fire for our time. But as the list above reveals, there is no world in which political violence escalates, but is contained to just your foes. Even if that were possible, it would still be a world of horrors, a society that had collapsed into the most irreversible form of unfreedom. Political violence is a virus. It is contagious. We have been through periods in this country where it was an endemic. In the 1960s, there were the assassinations on John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert F. Kennedy, and Medgar Evers. In the 1970s, Governor George Wallace was shot by a would-be assassin but survived, and Gerald Ford faced 2 assassination attempts in 1 month. In 1981, Ronald Reagan survived after John Hinckley Jr.'s bullet ricocheted off his rib and punctured his lung. These assassins and would-be assassins had different motives, different politics, and different levels of mental stability. When political violence becomes imaginable, either as a tool of politics or a ladder for fame, it begins to infect hosts heedlessly. American politics has sides. There's no use pretending it doesn't. But both sides are meant to be on the same side of a larger project. We are all, or most of us anyway, trying to maintain the viability of the American experiment. We can live with losing an election because we believe in the promise of the next election. We can live with losing an argument because we believe that there will be another argument. Political violence imperils that. Kirk and I were on different sides of most political arguments. We were on the same side of the continued possibility of American politics. It is supposed to be an argument, not a war. It is supposed to be one with words, not ended with bullets. I wanted Kirk to be safe for his sake, but I also wanted him to be safe for mine and for the sake of our larger shared project. The same is true for Shapiro, for Hoffman, for Hortman, for Thompson, for Trump, for Pelosi, for Whitmer. We are all safe, or none of us are.
You want to be done with the neo-libs, we'll engage with this slop. Ezra Klein is generally an intelligent guy. Whatever disagreements I have with him, I can't really deny that fact. This post is embarrassing. It's super, super embarrassing. By Ezra Klein, one of the left thought leaders, and has been for a while, at least since the Obama years. Charlie Kirk was practicing politics the right way. I think this is like I don't want to say it's a grift, but it's like an abundance bro thing where they're willing to capture the center and they want to capture the right. Like the abundance bros have made an effort to go and talk with a bunch of right-leaning people. They have been performatively anti the left, basically since the book came out. Newsom said the same thing. Yeah, but you should just say Newsom. I don't like it when people do the funny haha names. The Big Orange Cheeto. The foundation of a free society is the ability to participate in politics without fear of violence. To lose that is to risk losing everything. Charlie Kirk and his family just lost everything. As a country, we came a step closer to losing everything too. Okay? We've been edging closer for some time now. In 2020, a plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, was foiled by the FBI. In 2021, a mob stormed the Capitol in an effort to overturn the result of an election, and pipe bombs were found at the DNC and RNC headquarters. In 2022, a man broke into the home of Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House at the time, intending to kidnap her. She was absent, but the intruder struck her 82-year-old husband, Paul, with a hammer, fracturing his skull. In 2024, President Trump was nearly assassinated. That same year, Brian Thompson, the chief executive of United Healthcare, was murdered. In 2025, Molotov cocktails were thrown into the home of Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania during Passover. Melissa Hortman, the former House Speaker of Minnesota, and her husband were murdered. And State Senator John Hoffman and his wife were severely injured by a gunman. And on Wednesday, Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, was gunned down during a speech at Utah Valley University. So far, nothing's really wrong. You can dislike much of what Kirk believed, and the following statement is still true. Kirk was practicing politics in exactly the right way. No, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's true at all. I think that both the content of his politics and the way he engaged in them were wretched and evil.
Wretched and evil, you say, Ian? Well, that's very interesting. Well, what kind of things did Charlie Kirk say that was so wretched and evil? After all, you had a conversation with Charlie Kirk on Tim Pool's podcast. It seemed to be a very gregarious gathering that you had with both Tim Pool and Charlie Kirk. Yet you say that he was just wretched and evil in his approach. Well, where was he evil in those approaches? Like, what made it so wretched? Was it the fact that he would not necessarily agree with you that a child and an adult can have a positive sexual relationship and then there could be positive outcomes from that relationship?
Recognize this empirically correct fact that I am about to spit. It is possible for an adult and a child to have a sexual relationship and for it to have positive outcomes on the child as well. That is possible.
Is that what you think is wretched and evil, that he did not agree with that, even though you didn't bring that up to him? But you are on record for saying that. What makes that such a benevolent act, really? I mean, I really question your moral core overall. And I don't think you're a person that has the right to even talk about what wretched and evil is, when it seems to be that you're more inclined to actually encouraging pedophilia and saying that pedophilia has positive outcomes. Well, Vaush, Ian, whatever you want to go by, I just think that you're completely off base. And I also think you're two-faced. Because you're the kind of person where you actually would say to Charlie Kirk, well, I don't think you're a fascist, or I'm not calling you a fascist, then you call him a fascist behind his back.
Ability to defend those that can't defend themselves.
Okay.
Charity, generosity, integrity, faith to your creator, the ability to pass down good and moral values to the next generation, one that believes in work and one that believes in the cause of the nation above the self.
All right.
I've got an idea.
I think that's a
with
fairly collectivist point, that last one, though, wouldn't it be?
Well,
God, the nation above itself?
I mean,
Stalin
you could call it collectivist, but I wouldn't say the state. I'd say the idea of the nation, right? So there's two different things, and those are conflated sometimes by libertarian socialist types, which is a walking contradiction. I'd love to ask you about that.
Sure.
But just like, it's kind of just being
I
like
might
a Christian
answer it-
atheist,
I
right?
might answer it when you're done, by the way, because
Yeah.
I think my follow-up might touch on that.
But the state is a creation of the people. The people are the country. That's why our Constitution, the preamble, says we the people, not we the federal government, right? So the people are the nation. And so that's why I differentiate between the two. Do you have a loyalty? Do you have a belief that you want to create something bigger than yourselves? I think that's a moral good.
To me, and I mean this without meaning to hyperbolize, but to me that's always strung rather fascist. The myth of the common man, the people, the Volk, you know? The idea that there is a state, and Germany was a state, of course, but Hitler didn't really appeal to the state. It was the concept of the fatherland that he really hit on, and the people were a beating heart of the fatherland. They were an instrumental organ. And to me, the problem with this is that when you get down to it, this thought process, this mentality, it drives men to do terrible, terrible things. Because interpersonally, all of the chemical effects of empathy kick in. I look at you, I see you. But you start bringing in concepts like the nation, the fatherland, and it becomes very easy to convince people to compel themselves towards courses that they would otherwise not.
So expected you to use a 1930s reference earlier, so congratulations.
No, well, I'm only saying, I'm not calling you a fascist. I'm only saying
no, I know,
that
you did do the correct, I didn't mean to hyperbolize, but there's other nations today that have those values that we would never call fascist, like Japan. Japan has very strict immigration.
Well, I think Korea is actually a better example, to be honest.
I really don't like either of those countries for the reasons that I've described.
You don't like Korea?
I think they're both deeply conservative countries.
I agree with you.
Right.
They're wonderful.
And I think they do so in part because there's a degree of anti-individualism in the subservience they all expect of the common good. Now, it's funny. I feel like our roles are being reversed a little bit here.
Isn't that interesting?
The common good isn't something I appeal to. For me, the value I want to maximize...
No, I just appeal to the good.
The good, sure. The
Which
good
is two different things.
Is freedom. That's what I care about most. And that's what libertarian socialism is about. There are many types of freedoms, positive and negative. If I might indulge very briefly, like, is a man thrown to a lawless desert without food, water, or clothing free? I'm really asking.
So, probably no.
I agree. He's free to die.
But that's an extreme example, not applicable in modern wealthy America.
No,
or any Western nation.
But it's a philosophical base.
It's also a Rousseauian argument. Man's born free, and he, spends the rest of his life in chains. It's just anti-commercial in nature.
Well, no, but it's a base philosophical argument because it's true. They're lawless. There's nothing preventing him from doing anything in that environment. But he has no ability to act on his desires.
But do you know what he does have? Consciousness.
Well, sure.
So that's a natural rights doctrine that I will defend.
Well, I mean, I like consciousness, too. The only point that I'm getting at is when it comes to people's freedom and the ability for people to protect their freedom, this is what I care about. It's what Marx cared about. If you actually read what he wrote... and
I have. I've read Das Kapital. I've read the Manifesto. And guess what? He was right about some things.
Then you know.
But not everything.
He didn't talk
he was really wrong
about equality. He didn't write on equality. He wrote on freedom because he believed that society was a very complex... interlocking network of systems that in some ways liberated men and in other ways enslaved them.
But do you know what he got wrong? He got wrong that sometimes people can be free for other devices that they are not able to regulate. They can be free not from alcoholism, drug addiction, some sort of any other sort of perverse addiction. The idea of freedom is a very libertarian.
But I agree with that, though.
No, I know you do.
The greatest society...
I say that... Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just the greatest society is one where a man is born and there are as few things as possible preventing him from doing whatever he wants for the rest of his life.
I totally disagree.
So long as, of course, he doesn't deprive others of the ability to do the same.
So I think that's a miserable society.
Freedom?
No, that's not freedom. That's licentiousness or degeneracy. That's chaos.
What is degeneracy? I like men.
How about pedophilia?
Okay. Well, obviously,
you said
that
whatever he wants. Is pedophilia freedom, Vaush?
As long as they don't infringe on the rights of others, I'm sure you could believe. I would believe.
Well, so there are limits on freedom, is what you're saying. It's not this Wild West campaign.
Yeah, well,
so where do you get those limits from?
Well, obviously, you would probably have to have a pretty complex interlocking legal system to determine what we agree upon as like a reasonable limits we can place on people's behavior. We have that now to an extent.
No, I know. So like pedophilia, bad.
That would be a bad thing.
Okay, kidnapping.
That would be a bad thing.
Rape.
That would be a bad thing.
Why do you think those things are bad?
I think they're bad because you're stripping other people of the ability to do that which they will. With all those examples, you're inflicting harm on a person.
How about
To me, I think you're just a coward. And here you are, you're going to say that, oh yes, he was wretched and evil in his approach, when all he did was just talk to people. If you could point out one thing that was wretched and evil, I'd be very interested to know that. But I know you won't be able to, because what you're doing is you're just catering to your fringe woke left base, the people that basically are your bread and butter through your streaming channels, and you know that you have to appeal to them by saying such things. I see you, Vaush. I see you. And just like what Anna Kasparian said, you're trash.
He was showing up to campuses and talking with anyone who would talk to him. Yeah, like the way YouTubers do. He was one of the era's most effective practitioners of persuasion. No. He would post edited compilations. He deliberately went out of his way to challenge uneducated, non-media trained college students.
Oh, that's incredibly rich coming from you, Ian. Oh yes, I'm sure you did not ever take advantage of any naive person that happened to come on your live stream claiming that they're a conservative or they're far right or they're a right-wing libertarian. Oh, I know you love those tankies as well, especially Infrared. Oh man, Infrared, that guy's hilarious. But anyways, for you to say that, oh yes, well I'm an honest polemicist and I I'm not someone that's going to take advantage of naive college students. I'm not going to take them out of context. I'm not going to take advantage of them. You do that all the time on your social media, Vaush. You do it all the time on your Vaush channels. Every single time. You always mischaracterize people as well, where it's like, well, Elon Musk, he's a Nazi because he did the Roman salute. Or it's, well, Charlie Kirk, he says he wants to bring Christian nationalism to the United States. That makes him a Nazi. Or if it's, Tim Pool, he's actually conservative. He's not someone that's moderate. I mean, come on, man. For some reason, you tend to think that conservatives are national socialists, that they're akin to Adolf Hitler's Germany. I don't understand where you get this very strange conflation. It's very, very bizarre. And by the way, when you debated Andrew Wilson and you tried to label him as a fascist because he somehow voted for Donald Trump, I mean, you couldn't even properly determine how Andrew Wilson is a fascist. What makes Andrew Wilson a fascist there, Ian? Oh, well, he has a handle that says Big Papa Fascist. That was just something incendiary just to get under you French woke leftists. That was just to trigger you, and it worked. Because Andrew Wilson, he comes from the TikTok world and the Twitch world. And he is the person that represents the counterbalance to the French woke left echo chambers that are already on there. Andrew Wilson's actually a minority when it comes to the philosophical debates. And mind you, Andrew Wilson kicked your ass in that one debate. He totally kicked your ass there, Ian. You are absolutely no match for him because all you can do is try to filibuster and go on with your word salad and saying that, well, you're a fascist and you're bad faith, and meanwhile, you're the person that's not really providing any real definition. All you're doing is just going on your label tirade and using the pejoratives of fascist and Nazi, and you're not even bringing proper context to a person's ideology. That is why you are the king of sophistry. Because you make these fallacious arguments, you try to make out people you try to make out that people are a certain way in their philosophy. Let's take Andrew Wilson, for example. You say that he's a fascist. Well, what makes him a fascist? Where's the evidence that shows that that Andrew Wilson's interested in ultranationalism? Where does it say that Andrew Wilson, he wants to suppress people and take away democratic rights? Where does it say that Andrew Wilson wants to only have just a powerful syndicate group where everyone just obeys the group and falls in line? Where is that in line there, Vaush? Where is the evidence that Big Papa Fascist is a fascist? He only said that, he only had that handle just to trigger you, and clearly it worked. Andrew Wilson is a Christian conservative. Yes, he's on the right wing. That is true. He does believe in forced doctrine. He does believe in Christian nationalism. That's a given. And he also believes in the traditional roles of the patriarchy. Nothing wrong with that. The patriarchy has sustained human civilization for a long, long time. What has feminism done? I mean, we can get into that Pandora's box and open that up, but when we really come to it, when it comes to families, men are the ones that lead their families. And women do as well. But at the end of the day, it's the man that is the protector, the provider. And that's what they do. They provide. When it comes to labor relations, Vaush, I don't think you have a clue what it's like to do an honest day's work. And a lot of it is just based on your rhetorical nonsense. You're a kid from Beverly Hills, California. You obviously came from money. You went to university. I forget where you went, but I don't remember. I didn't do it like a complete deep dive on you, but I know that you obtained a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology, and that's good. I mean, you accomplished something there at least. But did you pay for that degree yourself? Do you know what it's like to actually have a job and know what it's like to earn paycheck after paycheck, to have a bank account, to know that, well, you have to be within your means, your financial means, to pay bills, to manage your finances, to know what it's like to struggle financially? Do you know what that's like there, Ian? I doubt you do. But you know who knew what it was like to struggle financially? Charlie Kirk. Say what you want about Charlie Kirk, Ian, but this is the truth about Charlie Kirk. At 18 years old, he was a kid from Illinois. He had a vision that he wanted to bring conservative ideals and conservative philosophy to college campuses. What did he do in that matter? He formed networks. He talked to people. He talked to people that were influential within local governments. He started from the grassroots. He was a kid that he did not come from a rich family like you. He was very limited in financial means. He spent most of his days nonstop just working, nonstop making those connections, getting out those forums, and really getting honed into his political philosophy. He found a niche and he executed it well. He ended up just working himself over and over again. He pinched every penny. He was wearing secondhand clothes from the Salvation Army. He was couch surfing. He was traveling. And look what he built throughout those years. Going from 18 years old up until the day he died at the age of 31. Look what he built. He built the most influential conservative movement to ever grace college campuses within the United States and abroad. And those Turning Point USA chapters, they're going to keep on growing if they stick to the work ethic and the philosophy that Charlie Kirk held. But look at the bright side there, Ian. At least you'll still have your sophistry and your echo chamber. I'm sure that will persist for probably a finite period of time until people get sick of you. But that's just a matter of time. It's not going to last forever.
He's received a ton of media training. They haven't. And even then, he would edit around them to make sure he always looked good. He was disingenuous and bad faith all the time. He was not out there seeking honest debate. What kind of insane grift, what lie is Ezra Klein trying to push here? To insinuate that Charlie Kirk was engaging in good faith here. When the left thought its holds on the hearts and minds of college students was nearly absolute, Kirk showed up again and again to break it. No, college students are overwhelmingly left-leaning. Charlie Kirk got a lot of attention at those Change My Mind college meetings because everyone there disagreed with him. What the He went over there to rabble. This is like arguing that Milo Yiannopoulos is like the ultimate advocate for free speech, because when he would go to Berkeley, everyone there hated him. Slowly, then, all at once, he did. College-age voters shifted sharply right in the 2024 election. Everyone shifted sharply right in the 2024 election. The idea that Charlie Kirk was the reason for it is laughable. It's because Donald Trump is a main character and Charlie Kirk isn't. This is a ridiculous thing to suggest. Charlie Kirk was the reason why. So what's the implication then? Like, Charlie Kirk went to every university in America and changed their minds directly? Like, the fact that he was proximate to colleges meant that he changed the minds of college students? How does that work? Is this guy high or something? No, but he's grifting to the right. Like every liberal who betrays us over and over again. Betrays us in America, by the way. Like all treasonous fucks like Ezra Klein. The left is like an unknowable, unappealable to entity that should only be disregarded. Whereas the right has to be capitulated to nonstop. I've seen even like milquetoast liberals go after Ezra Klein for this, by the way. Like, I think that, like, Ezra Klein has received a lot of backlash for this, and not just from the left. This was not all Kirk's doing, but he was central in laying the groundwork for it. I did not know Kirk, and I am not the right person to eulogize him, but I envied what he built. A taste for disagreement is a virtue in a democracy. Insane take. Absolutely insane. Like, you might as well argue that the brown shirts were advocates of a free society because they freely participated in the right to protest and organize.
And this is the major red flag that you have to watch out for. People like Ian. Ian is not interested in having an honest debate, an honest dialogue. He may come up with like this whole superficial veneer that, yes, I'm here to have like an honest discussion with you, but he wants you to conform to his ideas, his philosophy. He's not interested in learning or actually having his mind change or even augmenting his actual thought process in terms of his own philosophy. He wants his philosophies and beliefs to be affirmed only. Ian is afraid of anybody contradicting him, proving him wrong, because he is committed to a philosophy. And that's what you have to be careful with people that are so committed to a philosophy, because when they're committed to a philosophy like that and they're not interested in having an open and honest debate, doesn't mean that he has to change his mind. I mean, he, in the natural process, and the thing is that if he's interested in actually learning and adapting to life, then debate is crucial. Conversation and communication, it's crucial. But he wants to stick to his echo chamber. He's not interested in actually having any real dialogue or any entertainment towards a diametrical point of view. We also get this strange commentary about the brown shirts, and I'm not sure if he's actually making the comparison that conservatives or any affiliate of Turning Point USA or any person that happened to follow Charlie Kirk is a brown shirt or the equivalent of someone from 1933's Nazi Germany or a National Socialist. He has like these strange reverie of thoughts where, yes, conservative equals fascism / Nazi / Hitler. Like, he's very, very... he just has such a weird way of thinking. I mean, this guy has been so sheltered that he hasn't really learned what the real world is like. That's his major problem. Don't take advice from this guy. I would say this for Ian. He may have some valuable insights in terms of his own mental health and awareness, but when it comes to real world issues and real world problems, do not listen to some computer jockey, Wikipedia, Google jockey who thinks that that is actual research, and take their word that they're the person to listen to when it comes to actual foreign policy to implement or to run a country or to, in fact, make a better world. This guy just talks about problems. He doesn't really talk about actual solutions that can bring forth a level of efficacy.
Just like a laughable... I don't believe Ezra Klein actually believes this. I have to assume it's lying. You would have to be either very low IQ or very uninformed to think that Charlie Kirk was engaging in anything even approximating free discussion with an interest in promoting liberal values. Liberalism could use more of his moxie and fearlessness. In the inaugural episode of his podcast, Gavin Newsom of California hosted Kirk, admitting that his son was a huge fan. What a testament to Kirk's project. It's all a grift, dude. On social media, I've seen mostly decent reactions to Kirk's murder. Also a lie. Twitter is absolutely packed full of people cheering. There is grief and shock from both the left and the right, but I've seen two forms of reaction that are misguided, however comprehensible the rage or horror that provoked them. One is a move on the left to wrap Kirk's death around his views. After all, he defended the Second Amendment, even admitting it meant accepting innocent deaths. I actually do agree about this one. I do agree that the whole, oh, you live by the sword, die by the sword thing is worthless hypocrisy posting. Like, Charlie Kirk being in favor of the Second Amendment and him being assassinated with a 100-year-old hunting rifle are two completely irrelevant statements. Like, they have no, like, there are no gun laws that will ever pass in this country ever that will make it impossible to get a hold of a Mauser 30-06. No, there's no way, dude. You can get that gun anywhere. So, like, it's just meaningless hypocrisy posting. It's fallacious. Another is on the right to turn his murder into a justification for an all-out war, a Reichstag fire for our time. But as the list above reveals, there is no world in which political violence escalates but is contained to just your foes. Even if that were possible, it would still be a world of horrors, a society that had collapsed into the most irreversible form of unfreedom. Yeah, can you imagine a society in which an extremely partisan political force had taken over the government and were weaponizing all of its enforcement apparatuses to exclusively target their political enemies? Like, for example, Donald Trump explicitly saying that he will be giving grants to states that elected him and will be sending the military to cities full of Democrats. Things he's just openly said. Political violence is a virus. It is contagious. We have been through periods in this country where it was endemic. In the 1960s, there were the assassinations of JFK, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert F. Kennedy, and Medgar Evers. In the 1970s, George Wallace was shot by a would-be assassin but survived. Gerald Ford faced 2 assassination attempts in 1 month. In 1981, Reagan survived after Hinckley Jr.'s bullet ricocheted off his rib and punctured his lung. These is pretty words that mean nothing. These assassins and would-be assassins had different motives, different politics, and different levels of mental stability. When political violence becomes imaginable, either as a tool of politics or a ladder for fame, it begins to infect hosts needlessly. Notice how this paragraph has nothing to do with the title of the article.
And here we have Ian here. He does not understand the theme of this article. It's talking about the polarities of politics. It's talking about how we cannot look at each other as mortal enemies, that we must annihilate the other side. We must be able to have discussion. A battle of words, not a battle of bullets, just like what Ezra Klein said. But Ian, it goes over his head because he's so hyper-partisan that he cannot see the point of view of a conservative, because this guy does not understand conservatives. Real conservatives, mind you. And then he goes into this weird tangent talking about, well, Donald Trump wants to bring the National Guard to Democratic cities. Well, he is bringing ICE to different cities where there is illegal immigration. And frankly, what they're doing is they're enforcing the laws of the land. If you came into the United States illegally, then you've committed a federal crime. That's just enforcing the law. And of course, Ian is so hyper-partisan that he cannot understand the difference between his partisan point of view and actual reality, actual policy. It's all about what he believes. For someone that calls himself a libertarian, Ian is actually more of a conformist than anything. There's nothing libertarian about this guy at all, because he cannot understand individual differences, individual thoughts, the people just having the desire to live out their own individual lives. But he's just a living contradiction, this guy. Of course, he's just going to say, well, if you don't understand my philosophy, then you're just an absolute idiot. No. There's people that actually live in the real world that don't confine themselves into a bedroom and all they do is just talk to their echo chamber and get their confirmation biases verified and basically just allow the Dunning-Kruger effect to go wild, where you're more interested in being told that you're right than actually being affirmed of actually being factually correct. Or in this case, you're more interested in, you want the perception of being that you're knowledgeable and that you're correct all the time rather than actually being effective. And all this guy is effective for is just to create more division, to create more discourse within the political paradigm. All he's doing is just adding to the polarity. He's just making more resistance to actually coming forth and understanding and coming to a compromise on policies. I'm not to say that the left does not have some good ideas. Yes, there is inequality that has to be dealt with, but we have to focus on equal opportunity, not equal outcome. Equal outcome is a terrible idea. We don't want that communist nonsense. But I suppose our good old buddy Ian here, he's just going to go on about how we need to focus on the proletariat, and we need to get these workplace cooperatives throughout the land, and we need to implement my philosophy, my movement, or else the world will be in peril. I'm sure we're going to have Ian there to guide us from his bedroom to continue on persisting with his sophistry, to tell us where we're always going wrong, but never actually implementing or detailing a real policy that can actually be effective. This guy is a complete joke.
Charlie Kirk was a hate-mongerer and fascist who weaponized every tool given to him by a liberal democracy to remove that liberal democracy.
And this is how phony Ian is. When he was on Tim Pool's podcast, Ian actually had the opportunity to talk to Charlie Kirk directly. They debated about COVID. They debated about Anthony Fauci. And they also just talked about just their philosophical point of views. And during that whole debate, Ian actually did tell Charlie to his face that, well, I'm not calling you a fascist. And now here you have him in this segment. Well, he was a fascist and he had bad policies and he was bad faith. But you know what? He was very gregarious to me during a debate. And I didn't call him a fascist during that time, but I'm calling him now posthumously because I'm a coward and I can't compromise my base. I have to appeal to my base so I can get more streams, more ad revenue, and basically just be a complete, absolute coward. That's all he is. This guy is so duplicitous. I do not trust this guy for anything. This is why you do not trust a person like Ian. He is very duplicitous, and I will show you the video from Tim Pool's podcast. I'll even show you the segment where he actually says to Charlie, I'm not calling you a fascist. Now he's calling him a fascist in this segment.
Without meaning to hyperbolize, but to me that's always strung rather fascist. The myth of the common man, the people, the Volk, the idea that there is a state, and Germany was a state, of course, but Hitler didn't really appeal to the state. It was the concept of the fatherland that he really hit on, and the people were a beating heart of the fatherland. They were an instrumental organ. And to me, the problem with this is that when you get down to it, this thought process, this mentality, it drives men to do terrible, terrible things. Because interpersonally, all of the chemical effects of empathy kick in. I look at you, I see you. But you start bringing in concepts like the nation, the fatherland, and it becomes very easy to convince people to compel themselves towards courses that they would otherwise not.
So, expected you to use a 1930s reference earlier, so congratulations.
No, well, I'm only saying, I'm not calling you a fascist. I'm only saying
I know, you did do the correct, I didn't mean to hyperbolize, but there's other nations today that have those values that we would never call fascist, like Japan.
The guy is a complete coward. Vaush, oh jeez, you are so pathetic.
He was openly dishonest, preached hate, and celebrated the violence of people, directed against people who were political enemies. American politics has sides. There is no use pretending it doesn't. But both sides are meant to be part of the same side of a larger project. They're not. That's not true. That's not reality. Like, holy shit. How can you possibly think that we live in this reality? We are all, or most of us anyway, trying to maintain the viability of the American experiment. No, we're not. No, we're not. This is like the liberal myth, the idea that Republicans are just failing to do liberal democracy as well as Democrats are. Like, oh, the reason that every single thing they do and say is fascist is because they're just ineptly failing over and over and over again in ways that are increasingly harmful both to us and the fabric of the state and the Constitution to do liberal democracy. Why does every liberal sound like they're perpetually trapped in 2010 era dialogue? Well, you'll never guess when Ezra Klein became prominent. You'll never guess what he made his career off of. At the end of the day, these people aren't that different from the MAGA pundits in the sense that they're just content creators, you know? Ezra Klein, just like Iglesias and those other types, make their money off of Substack subscriptions, podcast appearances, and public speeches. They make their money off appealing to a certain demographic. You can think of them as like an old band, you know? Maybe they're not as big as they were back in the old days, but, you know, if you're like a hair metal band from the 1980s, you're not going to try to appeal to a new audience by mixing up your sound and putting out like a prog rock album or hip-hop or whatever, you know? You're going to keep appealing to your old fans. You're going to try to milk them for as much money and attention as you can get. And
well, I suppose a grifter is going to know another grifter, right, Ian? Just look at what you're doing right now, or at least in this segment. You're catering to your base, your bread and butter. You're going on this negative tirade about Charlie Kirk saying he was a hate monger, he was a racist, and he was a person of bad faith. Meanwhile, you know better than that because you had a debate with Charlie Kirk on the Tim Pool podcast. You even had a picture taken with Charlie, of all things. You had a picture taken with Charlie and Tim Pool, and you have your arms around both of them. But then for some reason, now you're going saying that, well, he's a hate monger. Well, I suppose you really wanted that picture regardless, right, Ian? Oh my lord, you are so bad faith, it's beyond belief. I mean, you're such a hypocrite, you're such a liar, you're such a duplicitous piece of crap. You really, really are. I just don't know how people can take you seriously. You just live in this echo chamber. You think being a Wikipedia and Google jockey makes you smart, but it only just adds to your sophistry. I suppose you might be able to have like a good point every once in a while. Well, even a stop clock can tell the right time twice a day. But in your case, Ian, you're just so duplicitous. It's a wonder how you even have friends. Honestly. Are you like that with your friends? I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, I think you are the kind of person that will smile in someone's face and you'll stab them in the back when the opportunity is right to do so. Because you are a coward. Oh, you are the quintessential coward, that's for sure. I think people would have much more respect for you if you were to say, this was a heinous assassination, a heinous murder, and it should be condemned full force. But you don't say that because you know you're catering to a base. You're all about that greed. Oh, for someone that claims to be a socialist, libertarian socialist for that matter, whatever you want to call yourself, you certainly are a greedy son of a bitch, aren't you? A coward and one greedy son of a bitch.
a lot of them will love you just because they're used to the same. That's what they're doing here. They're trying to play to the same old audience over and over and over again. They're still pretending that it's 2011, but it's not. And over time, the attention they've gotten has dwindled. Hence the abundance grift. Hence the appealing to the right. We can live with losing an election because we believe in the promise of the next election. We can live with losing an argument because we believe there will be another argument. No, that is not how politics works. Not only is that not how liberal democracy works, that's not how politics works. Politics isn't like an epic chess game where after you lose, you shake hands and go for another round. It's actually like a life or death battle every time. Political violence imperils that. Kirk and I were on different sides of most political arguments. We were on the same side of the continued possibility of American politics. No, you were not. Charlie Kirk is explicitly anti-democracy. He was an open, avowed Christian nationalist who supported anti-democratic policies. There's no ambiguity here. He wasn't dog whistling. He was really open about it. It is supposed to be an argument, not a war. It is supposed to be won with words, not ended with bullets. I wanted Kirk to be safe for his sake, but I also wanted him to be safe for mine and for the sake of our larger shared project. The same is true for Shapiro, Hoffman, Hortman, Thompson, Trump, Pelosi, for Whitmer. We are all safe, or none of us are. Thank you. Great. Phenomenal. Great stuff, really. And as always, I suppose, a reminder of how useless and feckless and inconsistent liberals are when faced with an existential threat to their democracy.
You really haven't learned anything, have you, Ian? You're saying that, oh, there's still an existential threat to the democracy of the United States. Well, first of all, the United States is a constitutional republic. Yes, you have democratic means to elect your officials, but there's nothing that's impeding that right now. You can still vote in the next election for the candidate that you want. They may win, they may not, but that is how democracies function. Meanwhile, you're going and saying that, oh, the existential threat to democracy still exists. That's how you fuel the radicals. That's how you fuel the extremists. And after all that has happened, you're still going on with that absolute inane crap. The rhetoric this guy spouts is absolutely dangerous. I'm not afraid of what he says. I'm afraid of what this guy will influence. And it's not going to be something that's a benevolent force of any kind. What this guy is going to do is he's going to influence the next school shooter, political assassin, you name it. All for the fact that this idiot cannot even condemn the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It really goes back to that question that Andrew Wilson asked Stephen Bennell II, otherwise known as Destiny by Sobriquet. Are you glad that Charlie Kirk is dead, Ian? I think you are. Because this whole entire incident has not changed your rhetoric and your point of view at all. You just do not understand the volatility of the political landscape, and that is why Ezra Klein wrote about the extreme polarities of the political spectrum. He talked about Republicans and Democrats both being targets of either successful or attempted assassinations. But for some reason, you are just so obtuse that you cannot see the fact that, yes, political violence is an anathema to democracy. But all you can do is just saying, well, the conservatives are an existential threat to democracy. You're just inspiring more hatred. You're adding more fuel to the fire where you should be saying, it's time that we actually have an honest talk with the other side. But you don't want to because your ego cannot allow you to do it. Oh, you are just so full of hubris and horse piss. Ugh. I just find you revolting. Completely revolting.
Speaking to avoid as well. There just isn't as much of an audience for this particular kind of grift, which is why he's trying to appeal to the right here, you know? There are not that many Obama-era liberals who are waking up every morning and thinking, you know, well, at the end of the day, the Republicans and us, we're on the same side. We're just pursuing different paths towards promoting the American experiment. There just aren't that many people engaging in that bullshit rhetoric anymore, so, like, the audience dries up, and eventually you kind of have to grift to, like, to the right. Never to the left, mind you. These people never, ever, ever, for some reason, they never grift to the left, you know? And if you want reason for that, I think their enduring support for the increase in corporate power, their support for deregulation, their selective deregulation, their support for public-private partnerships and Obama-era, you know, seed Wall Street bullshit, I think speaks for itself, you know? They would have to really challenge their principles to move to the left. But does this rhetoric even work on rightoids anymore? No, it does not. Appreciate the calming of the waters, Ezra, and yet I find it naive to think that his rhetoric was not escalationist and violent to itself. Charlie Kirk should not have been murdered, but we also need not rehabilitate his image because of the heinous circumstances of his death. What Ezra doesn't get is that American liberty doesn't start and end with his political podcast, Class of Pundits, being able to make their points in peace and say whatever they want without fear of reprisal. American liberal democracy was violated when Kirk repeatedly claimed that non-white migration was a threat to the white race. Setting up a tent for college kids to argue with him about it doesn't absolve him of being a pusher of hate and supporter of political violence. I can't see how what Charlie Kirk did was, quote, practicing politics the right way. Any engagement he conducted was to promote disinformation and mock people who disagreed with him. I disagree with this position. Kirk did nothing but stir hatred throughout the land. Everyone here him. And this is, by the way, the comment section for the New York Times. Not exactly, we're not on the New Republic. We're not on Jezebel. We're not on the Daily Beast. We're not in the Rolling Stone comment section. We're not in the Intercept. These are Times commenters. So no, this grift doesn't sell anymore. He made $5 for this. I hope it was worth it. And some bubble gum.
So with regards to white culture or Caucasians or this whole insinuation that Charlie Kirk wanted to promote white supremacy, what he was talking about was the preservation of the American family, whether it be people that are English descent, German descent, French descent, Irish descent. There's nothing wrong with wanting to preserve one's heritage. And for Ian to disingenuously say that, oh, well, he was believing the replacement theory, the great white replacement theory that they like to go on about. Well, you know what? When you actually take a look at the birth rates when it comes to places like Denmark, Sweden, a lot of European countries, the Caucasian race itself is starting to diminish. And you even take a look at Canada and the United States, birth rates have actually been decreasing, whereas you're seeing more of the Asian populations starting to revamp up their birth rates. So it's not a far-fetched idea to say that, you know what, maybe whites are being replaced. And I'm not getting into that whole theory in itself, but I can see that in real time. But in the context of wanting to preserve one's family heritage that happen to be white or black or whatever, I don't see any issue with that. And I can see people try to, contort this whole issue and saying that, oh, well, that means you're a white supremacist. Well, if I want to preserve my family heritage, then so be it. I'm not even going to talk about what race I am because I just find race to be completely irrelevant. But all Charlie was talking about was if you want to preserve your identity, you should have the right to do so. There's nothing wrong with that. And of course, Ian, he's all condescending and saying that, oh yeah, well he earned $5 from this article. Yeah, good job, Ezra Klein. You got some bubblegum too. Ha ha ha. Oh yeah, such a clever joke there, Vaush. Oh God. I mean, this guy is completely insufferable. I don't know how anyone can ever listen to this guy or ever try to debate this guy, because you'd be better off trying to debate a frickin' dining room table, like what Barney Frank once said to this person that was saying that Obama was a National Socialist. And there's a very old video that goes back to when Obama was first became in the limelight of politics. And there was a person that was saying that Obama was akin to Adolf Hitler. And then Barney Frank happened to say to this woman, ma'am, I have no interest in talking to you. Talking to you is like trying to talk to a dining room table. I have no interest in it.
Why do you continue to support a Nazi policy, as Obama has expressly supported this policy? Why are you supporting it?
Let me, but I will.
A real solution.
When you ask me that question, I am going to revert to my ethnic heritage and answer your question with a question. On what planet do you spend most of your time? You want me to answer the question? Yes. As you stand there with a picture of the president, the face to look like Hitler, and compare the effort to increase health care to the Nazis, my answer to you is, as I said before, it is a tribute to the First Amendment that this kind of vile, contemptible nonsense is so freely propagated. Ma'am, trying to have a conversation with you would be like trying to argue with a dining room table. I have no interest in doing it.
And that's how I feel about this Vaush character. I just don't think that there's really any substance to the guy. I think he's a rhetorical machine. I think all he does is just spout a bunch of nonsense, and everything is a grift to him, whether it be he debates a prominent conservative, whether it be Charlie Kirk, or he debates Andrew Wilson. I think he just looks for that clout. He was able to get to the limelight mostly because of his master or teacher, Stephen Bennell II. And, well, for what I understand, he actually has ditched Destiny, and now he's on his own. But I suppose that's the thanks Destiny gets for allowing this imbecile to be a part of his community. Now he's creating his own community, and I'm sure he's going to say, well, I did this all on my own. No, you grifted off of other people's audiences, just like Cenk Uger's nephew grifted off of Destiny as well. So I guess we have Stephen Bennell II to thank for all these fringe woke leftists that are taking prominence over social media and live streams and basically just saying their absolute non-practical nonsense to the world. And again, it's all about the perception of looking right. It's not about being effective or actually being factually correct. It's all about perception and money, and that's all this Vaush character is. At least with Stephen Bennell, he does make attempts to actually be factually correct, but the people that have followed him afterwards, or his proteges, I should say, Vaush especially is just philosophically committed. You're not going to change this guy's mind. This guy is completely obtuse. He is just as obstinate as a boulder rock at the precipice of a cliff. And all it's going to take is one little push, and he'll just fall off the cliff and he'll be forgotten about. I don't think that there's any merit to further talk about this guy anymore. He's proven himself to be an absolute piece of crap. He's a liar. He's duplicitous. And you can't trust a single thing this guy says because he's not an honest actor. He's all about the grift. Get the ad revenue for those streams. Say what it takes to keep your audience, keep them audience captured. And I'm sure he'll probably say he doesn't care. Of course he does. If that were the case, he would not be continuing these live streams. It's all about money, man. That's what it is. It's all about money. It's really, really sick when you really come to think about it in perspective. And that's what Ian lacks. He lacks real, objective perspective. But he doesn't believe in objectivity because he's a postmodernist. And of course, they all think life is just complicated. There's all these narratives and it can be anything. And, oh yes, well, water's not actually H2O. It's aqua. Oh, jeez. This guy is just a complete fool. And I feel sorry for the people that actually follow this guy and actually believe his absolute nonsense. Because he's a charlatan. He's a pure charlatan. But when you really want to define someone like Vaush, and I'm not really big on the labeling tirades, but if you want to call a spade, you might as well call it a spade. And I'm pretty damn sure I know what kind of spade this Vaush character is. And it comes down to one word. Sophist. So this concludes part 5 of the Charlie Kirk Effect. In part 6, I'm actually going to make more of a focus on Erica Kirk. There's a lot of controversy going on with Erica Kirk right now in terms of the transition at Turning Point USA. Of course, there's a lot of conspiracies being thrown around by people like Candace Owens, who are very suspicious in terms of how the whole incident involving Charlie Kirk's assassination came to be. I have a lot of reservations in terms of what to say about Erica Kirk and just Candace Owens in general. I think these are two people that genuinely did love Charlie as a person. They were very close to him, they valued him as a person, and they really valued him in terms of being a best friend, a husband, and someone that was very special to them in their own individual lives. I've taken my time in terms of evaluating just the general body language and the disclosure that's being brought forward with regards to Charlie Kirk's assassination. And I don't like to always entertain conspiracy theories, but sometimes it turns out to be conspiracy fact. I think the evidence with Charlie Kirk's assassination is more conclusive than it is in terms of an ongoing investigation. When you have like nefarious actors that are being brought forward into the situation, and when you really start to take a look at the numbers, it really comes down to that deep throat quote with regards to Watergate. If you really want to find the truth and find where the corruption lies, all you have to do is follow the money. So, in part 6, I will be looking into Erica Kirk, Turning Point USA, and the controversy surrounding Candace Owens' own independent investigation into the Charlie Kirk assassination. So please stay tuned for part 6 of the Charlie Kirk Effect.